Hello and welcome back to this new video. Today in another format and hopefully with a better video and sound quality. I changed some things and equipment up, but that is not the topic for today. Today I want to talk you through my last month's art challenge, the infamous Inktober challenge. If you know me or followed me for a while, you'd know that I participate or at least try every year. Most of the time I don't like my pieces or get burned out halfway through it. The only time I finished it and been happy with my work was 2 years ago when I did my own list of various dinosaurs. So this year I decided to do it similar. I don't always like the prompt of the official list, and I also didn't find a list this time that really resonated with me at the moment. Also, I knew beforehand that October will be a busy month with more con preparations and work piling up. So, to not set myself up for failure before it even started, I created a small collection of prompts and motifs I can work myself through in my own pace. Also, I won't do the full 31 days, but I plan to post the work every other day. So, let's get started. You actually can see the first illustration in the background already. Also, you might have seen me struggling with opening the ink container. I circled through phases of using different art supplies, and my ink phase has been a while. It tend to glue together, but seldom was so bad. Definitely time to use some ink again. I started the month with a motif I haven't really done before. I wanted something new, but not too challenging to get into the routine again. So I choose the seahorse. I love looking at the ocean, especially deep sea creatures, for inspiration and references. The waters are just full of weird things. When I think of fish, my first thought, don't go to seahorses though, but they come in all kind of shapes and colors. There's a lot of wiggle room to adapt them nicely to my style. And for a first ink drawing of the month, this tiny horse turned out quite nice. I realized that the focus of my camera was off quite a bit, and also had to cut out some parts because I obscured the lens quite a bit with my hair. Sorry about that. I fixed my setup and it's a bit better now. It's still a mess with the ink. I haven't even started yet and it's everywhere. You start to understand why I don't always have the nerve for this art medium. I didn't limit myself to a specific topic. The only limitation for the prompts was that it has to be some kind of animal, so no characters or objects. I like to have a somewhat coherent series when I do fun challenges like that, so it will look more uniform in the end. So, besides sea creatures, there's also some insects on my list. For the second one, I decided to draw a moth. I have a thing for insects and bugs, especially moths. I find them to be so beautiful. My favorite kinds are the ones with big wings and tailed lower wings. Over the past years, I have drawn a couple of them already. I have even two different illustrations as wooden pins because I like them so much. Funnily enough, they scare the shit out of me if they're close to me and moving. I like them from far, but please don't come close. Usually, I like to take a real existing animal or insect as inspiration, but today I just wanted to get started without much planning or thinking. I wanted to make everything a bit more angular and spiky, matching the first drawing with the lighting. The body of the moth was going to be a skull. After all, it was October, aka the Halloween month. While in preparation for the Inktober, I stumbled across this watercolor tin I had in my closet for a year now, untouched. I got them from Amazon quite cheap because I don't really work with watercolor anymore, so I don't invest in them, but I quite like them. On small areas, they work perfectly. Only on bigger spaces, they can get a bit splotchy. But then it's only watercolor and it's probably not intended for that usage. But I love the metallic effect they give off as highlights, for example. And I'm so glad I finally tried them and continued using them for almost all drawing this month. Back to the ocean with this one. The next Inktober drawing is going to be a jellyfish to match the seahorse from day one. I liked how the first two turned out and wanted to be a bit closer on theme still. I again took multiple pictures of jellyfish as references. and then just drew however I liked. Since the skull of the moth looked cool, I wanted to incorporate the skull into the jellyfish as well. I honestly don't have much to say about this one. It was just a fun little third day. I tried to add the same amount of detail I had in the previous ones without it looking too crowded and overworked. After all, a jellyfish is not the most complex of creatures. Okay, day 4. I knew that 100% I will draw a rat or two or three. Call that foreshadowing. I just didn't expect the fourth day to be one already, but let's be honest, who doesn't love to draw their comfort animal? Also, if you're here, you love rats as well. Why else would you be following me? Yeah. Anyway, as I said earlier, I had to prepare for conventions and all, and I also had to place an order for new stock. And while I was on it, I decided I could do some more red products. Sadly, they didn't arrive before the first con in November, but as soon as I have them, you will know it. Now begins the part where I kind of lose the theme I had going on at the start. Okay, like with the red, it began, but I had not necessarily more time this day, but I felt motivated to do something a bit bigger. And with that, I meant I finally filling the whole page. So, snakes it is. First idea was to create a snake with multiple heads that twist and contort in itself. But at this small scale, a bit too busy. So I reduced the number of heads to only two, but still make them move all over the place. The frame I put here because I won't have space for the full body. I think it just looks nicer with this kind of drawing style if there's a bit of negative space to the end of the paper. And I like the effect of certain parts of the illustration protruding out of the box. Makes the work look more dynamic and dimensional instantly. What I don't necessarily like is drawing straight long lines with ink and no way to fix anything up. And just when I thought I made it, it went so well. I lifted my hand and saw the stamp splotch on the side of the paper.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
I would lie if I told you I didn't want to throw the pen away, but well, shit happens. I'm just dramatic, honestly. I could save it in the end with a box cutter and eraser. Bit by bit, it's not spotless, but it's definitely better than before. Besides this mishap, I'm still quite happy with the result. I think of printing these as bigger postcards, maybe, and see if the metallic color will work as well on print paper. From no legs to all the legs. The drawing after the snakes was this centipede. I'm skipping quickly through the drawing process because once again, I'm bumping my head into the video all the time. And also, I'm not that happy with how it turned out. I like the idea, so maybe I'll redraw it eventually. But for now, this one is just a short entry. Another rat, obviously. You know what I always like to say. You can't leave a rat alone. One always needs a friend. The nice thing about working with liquid ink is that you can get a multitude of textures and line weight with it, depending on how you use it or what kind of pen nibs you work with. You might have seen that I keep changing my pens depending on what part of the drawing I'm working on. For the outlines, I use quite a big and flat tip, which can take a lot of the ink at one go. But if you hold it sideways, it can also produce quite thin lines. Even though shading like that can be a bit time consuming, it's worth it in the end. The really fine shading I always do off camera because especially when I do the hatching for the shading, I need to turn the paper a lot and get the right angle, and then it's what effect I like. Also, you would constantly see my hair because I'm shrimping over my paper in this part of the illustration. We stay with something fluffy and cute looking. So here is the most baby-faced goat I could ever draw by accident. After the snake, I wanted to have something like another motif with a colorful background and the overlapping effect. And the goat head seemed like a good fit. The plan was to create a mysterious goat with multiple horns. So yeah, somewhere along the way we lost the darkness into a cute little glitter goat. But I still like it. A different vibe than I expected though, but she's cute. While looking for references for another project, I stumbled across a sheep skull with 4 horns. I first obviously thought it's going to be something made up, some craft project or some abnormal mutation, but I found out there's actually sheep that on a regular grows 4 horns. They're called the Jacob sheep, and if you, like myself, didn't knew them before, go look them up. They look really cool with their horn formations. Okay, bear with me. It's the last word for now. It's just so fun doing the fur texture with ink. Like, I'm obsessed with reds and draw them in every medium I'm able to do a decent illustration. Ink will be forever my favorite for a red. The slight imperfections of texture just work so well. And since I can scan them in digitally color, it's just the best of both medium. Also, I stopped the green watercolor for this and the previous one because it's a bit difficult to use how I wanted without losing a lot of the ink texture. So these two reds are plain. As the month came to an end, I wanted to do some more ocean-inspired creatures. The starfish turned out a bit wonky, not gonna lie. I didn't have much time this day, but it's still kinda cool how it looked in the end. I just played a bit around with texture and spikes, gave it a teethy mouth. I know starfish have mouth like this, but like not like this big. Yeah. And then later I used a bit of the metallic paint to make it a bit more interesting, especially if you hold it against the light. Same as for the next drawing, the whale. A blue whale to be specific. When I was younger, I had a fascination with dolphins and whales. I had so many of these kitsch dolphin sculptures and snow globes. If you grew up in the 2010s, you know exactly what I mean. I had the blue whale on my list because of unknown reasons. I never really tend to draw these animals, even though they're nice motifs. So creating this illustration was mandatory for the month. Also, I think it looked great with the metallic detail, like those green and turquoise colors with the shimmering effect. It's just really fitting for ocean and deep sea, and it's giving mermaid colors, so it fits really nice to all water related animals. I also had a big horse face when I was younger. I grew out of eventually, but I didn't choose the next motif because of that, though I realize how it's a coincidence that these two are back to back. I had the sketch, or more like a sketch similar to this one, in one of my sketchbooks for a while now. I love creatures and cryptids, and unicorns always been one of my favorites. I don't know why. Maybe because I love horses in general so much, and unicorns are the cooler horse. So a unicorn with multiple horns is even better, right? Anyway, I thought about a name for this kind of animal, but multicorn doesn't sound quite right. So if you have a better idea, let me know. But I like the motif. I'm thinking of reusing this theme. Can't quite call it a design yet. In the future, maybe working out a small creature from it. We will see. For this one, I also recorded the process of how I painted the background, only for the reason because it's satisfying to look at, and I haven't done it with another of the drawings before. Also, you can see how even painting the background, or like especially painting a background with these kind of watercolors, is really time consuming because you can only go in like really small patches if you don't want to get the whole area really splotchy. Okay, the last Inktober drawing now. And please don't be mad, but I lied earlier. There is another red. But before you leave, let me explain. It's a dragon red. It doesn't really count. does it. The dragon rats are the small creatures I created a couple of years ago. They came to life after a tiny sketch where I drew one of my rats while they were sleeping or like just doing their thing. And I put tiny wings on them, like on the sketch, not on the rat, and put the text that said something like quotation marks, rats as dragons, question mark. A bit later I took it and started to design the first one, which by now is also the people's favorite. I liked them so much that I decided to create a dragon rat equivalent for all the rats I had before. And since I had rats for almost 10 years, there's a lot to work through to honor them all. So this the winged boy is one of the albinos I had. He was called Light, not only because he was really light, but because I had another rat that's called L, and they were fighting all the time, and I was like, that's funny. Anyway, he had always vision issues from a young age, so that's why his dragon design got multiple eyes. No, he never needs to wobble his head again to see. Yeah. And with that, my Inktober is over. I ended it on my favorite drawing of this year's challenge. In retrospective, I'm glad I gave myself these rather loose rules. I could actually enjoy the challenge, and it still was one, at least at times. The routine of drawing every day, and let it be just some quick sketches, helps me to stay creative and not get too hung up on one bad illustration or a bad drawing day. I really need to keep that in mind the next time I'm a bit in a drawing slump. There is no need to overwork oneself. But continuity is important if you have a goal. No, generally speaking. And looking back at my gallery with my Inktober work, I'm happy I didn't quit. And I'm happy that you stayed so long and joined me on my Inktober recap. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Have a nice day or night or whenever you watch this, and till the next one.